Imagine walking into a room where every eye sees you as a mistake, not because of your words, not because of your work, but because of your shoes. Sounds cruel? Just wait. You haven't heard the worst yet. She stepped into the glass-walled conference room at Stormcp, and the temperature dropped like a knife through ice. No designer heels, no shiny watch, just a plain folder clutched to her chest, and shoes that had clearly walked through real life. One look, and they judged her. The HR director, smirking just loud enough to sting, muttered, "Looks like she borrowed that outfit from a lost and found box." Laughter sparked, cruel, immediate. "We're hiring executives," one candidate sneered, slick hair and a pinstriped suit stiff around his neck. "Not collecting charity cases." And the laughter grew, rippling across the table like venom in a glass. "You watching this? Because this is the kind of world where a woman's worth is crushed under a price tag, unless she knows how to fight back." They barely glanced at her resume. Their eyes scanned her up and down like she was a glitch in the system, like someone forgot to cancel her appointment. But they didn't know the truth. They didn't know that the man who built this company from the ground up, the billionaire CEO behind the empire towering 50 floors above the valley, was her husband. Her name? Nina Taylor, 30. Hazel eyes, ponytail, grace in every step. Brains sharper than the suits around her, but none of that mattered. Not when her thrift store outfit made her look like a nobody in a kingdom of plastic crowns. She'd fought her way through every interview round, not because of who she was married to, but because of her mind. She'd spent sleepless nights building the very frameworks this company runs on, and still, they saw her as nothing. Across from her sat 5 judges, cold as glass. Diane Brooks, HR head, her red blazer more like a warning sign than a fashion choice. Greg Palmer, exec with a Rolex that screamed ego. Tyler Hensley, 28, entitled heir with a silk noose for a tie. Laura Chen, data strategist with a permanent sneer. Mark Evans, ops lead with a buzzcut and zero respect in his slouch. Out of hundreds of applicants, it had come down to Nina versus Tyler. But from their eyes, the fight was over before it even started. Nina handed Diane her resume. Plain paper, no gloss, just a name, and quiet victories. Diane didn't even glance, just slid it across the table like trash. Greg flicked it back with a scoff. No need. No relevant experience, average education, wrong major. He leaned in, poison in every word. "So tell us, why exactly do you think you're fit for this company?" Nina didn't blink. "Because I've spent 8 years building scalable systems. My last startup tripled its revenue from a framework I designed. I'm here because I can solve problems Stormcp hasn't even named yet." Tyler laughed like a child poking ants. "Scalable systems? What is this, a lemonade stand?" Diane piled on. "She's delusional. Probably thinks Excel is cutting-edge tech." Laura narrowed her eyes. "What's your degree? Sociology?" "Computer science," Nina replied, "with a focus on AI ethics. I've published," Mark barked over her like a guard dog. "Published? We don't need essays. We need results." Then came the moment that should have broken anyone else. Diane, smiling wide, grabbed a black marker, and in thick strokes, she scrawled a single word across Nina's resume. Loser. The ink bled through the page, and every laugh felt like a dagger. "Frame it!" Tyler shouted. "She's a masterpiece of failure," Greg clapped. Phones came out. They filmed it. They laughed. And Nina? She stood still, fingers brushing the ink, calm like a storm just before it hits. "You're wasting our air," Diane hissed. "Borrow that skirt from a thrift bin?" Greg added. "Where's the flea market booth?" Every insult sharpened. Every joke cut deeper. Still, she didn't flinch. She said one thing. "I'm here to talk qualifications, not clothes." But they weren't finished. Laura grabbed a stapler and punched holes into Nina's resume. Mark howled. Swiss cheese resume! Laura kicked the pages off the table. Trash stays down! Nina bent to pick them up. Her hands were steady, but you could hear the silent screaming. Greg stood. You think you're qualified? He slammed a thick pack of coding problems on the table. Prove it. No laptop, no help, logic on paper. Let's see what the charity case can really do. If you thought the insults were enough to break her, you don't know Nina Taylor. Because what they did next wasn't just cruel, it was calculated. And if you've ever been broken and forced to stand tall anyway, keep listening. This part is for you. Nina didn't hesitate. She bent over the thick test packet, pen in hand, breath steady, as if the chaos around her didn't even exist. Equations, loops, logic gates, complex systems. They poured out of her pen like water through cracked stone. Fast, confident, clean. 5 minutes passed. Tyler yawned like it was nap time. Diane? Scrolling her phone, bored. Laura muttered, she's scribbling nonsense. But Nina? She finished. Slid the packet across the table. Done, she said, calm as ever. Greg grabbed it, scanned the first page, then he ripped it in half. Slow, deliberate. The tear echoed like a gunshot in the room. He dropped it into the trash with a smirk. Bare minimum, not even close, total waste. But they weren't done. Tyler reached for the water pitcher. In one vicious move, he poured it over her head. The icy splash soaked her blouse. Her skirt clung, her hair dripped, and the room erupted with laughter. Cool off, dreamer, he jeered. Greg cackled. She's a wet mess now. Laura? She snapped a photo. Viral gold, she whispered. And still, Nina stood, soaked, shaking. But not with fear, with fire. Her hazel eyes locked forward, unflinching. Then Diane called it. Security! Now intruder alert! Tyler laughed. Escort her out. She's a stain on the room. The guards burst in, big, badged, cold. One grabbed her arm, the other snatched her folder, but Mark wasn't done. He ripped it from the guard's hand and tore it to pieces. The work she spent years building, shredded like garbage. Scraps fluttered like confetti at a funeral. No room for fakes here, he barked. Diane? Rip her dreams apart. Tyler hurled a pen at her feet. Write your sob story somewhere else. The pages hit the floor like ashes. Nina knelt, calm. Fingers gathering the ruins. But Mark stomped them into the carpet. Stay down, nobody! She didn't break. She just stood up. Move, the guard growled. And she did. No resistance, no tears, just silence and power. Tyler shouted after her, Mailroom's hiring! The door slammed behind her, their laughter echoing. But the humiliation wasn't over. Greg pulled the trash can from under the table. He dumped it over her as the guards dragged her away. Coffee grounds, crumpled papers, filth raining down. Here's where you belong, Laura clapped. Garbage girl, complete. Diane, perfect exit for a fraud. Her blouse, soaked and stained, her hair streaked with coffee and shame, her eyes still sharp, still focused, still unbreakable. As she passed the panel one last time, Diane hissed, You're a joke. Go back to flipping burgers. Greg flicked a paperclip. Here's your bonus. Spend it wisely. It hit her shoulder and clattered to the floor. Tyler stood again. Wait, let's give her a proper send-off. He grabbed a cold, half-full coffee cup and splashed it across her chest. The brown stain bloomed across her shirt like a wound. There's your Stormcp welcome, he laughed. Laura clapped. Perfect. She's brewed now. Nina wiped her cheek, coffee dripping. But still, she didn't flinch. The guards yanked her harder, dragging her through the marble lobby. No one made eye contact. No one helped. She was invisible now, humiliated in front of a world that just looked away. At the door, the guard tossed her folder into a trash bin. Don't come back. But as the glass doors opened and the sun hit her face, Nina didn't bow her head. She walked forward, soaked, shamed, but whole. Because this wasn't just about pride. It was about every woman who'd ever been laughed at, dismissed, humiliated, and still refused to fold. She pulled out her phone, dialed one number. "It's me," she said. "It went bad." His voice tightened. "How bad?" "The coffee, the test, the guards." There was a pause. Then, fire in his voice. "I'm coming." And by morning, the building that had humiliated her was about to burn in the storm. What happens when the people who mocked you are forced to watch you rise? When every insult they hurled becomes the chains that drag them down. If you've ever dreamed of the day your silence speaks louder than their cruelty, this ending is for you.
Their careers burned. Diane's confidence turned to ash. Greg's Rolex, now a useless chain. The same hand that dumped trash on Nina had buried himself with it. His name, blacklisted to oblivion. Tyler's pinstriped legacy, shredded. His cruel laughter, now a ghost. A dynasty shut down with a single corporate gasp. And on the screen, investor eyes burning through every replay. Their shame projected for the world to see. Every sneer, every insult, every jab became nails in the coffin of their own reputations, and standing silently in the center of it all. Nina Taylor, the quiet woman they mocked, became their executioner without lifting a finger. Elias didn't flinch. "You tore her test," he said, "the one she solved faster than any of you could have dreamed. You dumped coffee, you laughed, you called security." Say it again, but they couldn't. Diane's lips quivered. Tyler stared at his shoes. Greg rasped, "Mistake." Laura stammered, "We didn't know." Mark croaked, "Sorry." But Elias leaned in. "Sorry is nothing. You showed me who you are. Small, cruel, blind. And this company doesn't carry trash." He looked at security. "Take them. They're finished." And just like that, the same guards, the same black polos, the same walk of shame. But this time, it wasn't Nina, it was them. Diane's red blazer dragging behind her like a warning flag. Greg's Rolex dangling, worthless. Tyler's silk tie flopped like a noose. Laura's glasses slipping. Mark's head bowed, buzzcut catching the light like a confession. They were fired. On the spot. Badges ripped, resumes shredded. Investors nodding, shareholders typing. Their names torched across the industry. No firm would touch them. LinkedIn profiles, dead air. Calls, ignored. Diane's blazer, on a thrift store rack. Greg's Rolex, pawned for rent. Tyler's family name, collapsed. Laura's glasses, sold for scraps. Mark's swagger, crumbled to dust, all for sneering at a woman they didn't see. Until it was too late. 6 months later, rain lashed a downtown station. Umbrellas snapped, commuters hurried past, and there, slumped against a wall, sat Greg Palmer, once a Stormcp executive, now unshaven, coat torn, cardboard sign in trembling hands, "Please help." The Rolex was gone, the smirk, just a memory, his fingers shaking in the cold. And then, heels clicked. Nina, still with that ponytail, now wrapped in a navy coat. She had just delivered a keynote on AI ethics, reshaping the future while the past lay shattered at her feet. She paused, reached into her pocket, pulled out a quarter, silver, cold, and dropped it into his palm. It glinted. The man who'd torn her test, now clutching her coin. She looked into his eyes. No hate, just a quiet, knowing smile. And then she walked on, her steps light, steady, unshaken, like thunder wrapped in grace. That coin wasn't pity, it was justice. Cold, clean, and earned. She didn't need to scream, didn't need to shout, because she let their own rot bury them. They mocked her, humiliated her, tried to break her, but Nina built Stormcp's heart, and Elias turned their world into ash for what they did to her. Now, she stands tall, and they're still falling. A lesson carved in their downfall. If you've ever been judged for how you looked, if you've ever been underestimated, disrespected, or cast aside, remember this story. Hit that like button. Drop a comment about your experience. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that hit where it hurts and heal where it matters. Because in a world full of noise, sometimes silence is the loudest revenge of all.